Hey everybody, JamieStarr here, New World News Network. I haven't heard back from Paul, but I haven't checked my messages in a little bit. So I'm just going to try and knock out some videos today on my own. This will be the first one of the batch, probably a handful of separate ones because they're all different topics. Sorry, I'm probably not going to put the intro clips on this one like I had on the last one. That will be a regular feature. Again, I keep saying I'm trying to update everything and get everything at a more optimal professional level, so that they're just templates for everything and it's all just ready to roll and all that stuff. It's just a whole lot for one person to be doing, especially when I have to do it for this, my music stuff, which I have a new project, a remix project. Songs from that will start coming out soon. It's called Make Music Great Again. And yeah, that computer, I'm having to put a 64-bit version of Windows on because I only installed the 32-bit before, but all my programs are 64-bit. Nonsense that I have to deal with all the time. So anyway, this first video is going to be about a preschool teacher. It's a video taken from a YouTuber called The White YouTuber. I really hope he doesn't get pissed that I'm about to take his video of him talking over someone else's video, because the quote I want to get into is 8 minutes into it, but because I've dated a handful of preschool and elementary because I've dated a bunch of people who work in early childhood education, I thought I could add a few points to this. Also, because I went to a black school, I thought I could add some points. And yeah, so I just want to make sure, he doesn't see this as me trying to jack his stuff or anything like that. It's far more of me shouting him out and thinking I have something to add to what he's saying. He seems like a really funny guy. Definitely recommend everyone checking out his channel, The White YouTuber. And yeah, he seems to be really keen on collaborating with people. So if he would actually like to do a collaboration, feel free to hit me up. So let's get into this.
Whether we admit it or not, racism lives on in our schools.
Okay.
There's no separate but equal. There's no segregation.
Yeah, that's good.
But believe it or not, racism exists.
Well, then go find that race.
I just want to say, I have this thing I constantly try to point out with this. And this is just a general common sense kind of observation, but when things exist, you generally don't have to declare it. Like, I don't have to tell you the smoothie I'm drinking is real. You can see it. But they have to declare it exists, because as you listen to her, she's going to even say it's, not even conscious. It's just in the ether. You can't even help it because we're human and it has to be there. This is like, it's so funny because when we're shown things like 1984 or Brave New World or all these sort of dystopic, futuristic, kind of super government, everything highly regulated. I mean, maybe not as much in Brave New World, but it's always shown in a kind of dark, very iron fist type manner, and this is this sort of like thought policing, but it's done in this like coddling, like here's a pretty white girl who, like, every time she's talking about how bad black people have it, she's like got this smile on her face. That's what bothers me the most. Like, her demeanor in talking about this, like, it makes it very hard to take them serious.
Racism and knock the shit out of it.
And it's our duty to open our eyes and see how it occurs and where it occurs and who it affects.
My duty to find racism? No. I don't gotta do jack shit. If I see some bullshit happening in real life, I may or may not get involved, but I don't have to. It is not my duty.
It starts affecting our children in preschool.
Okay.
Black children are more likely to be noticed for their misbehavior, more likely to be referred into the disciplinary system, and more likely to be punished and receive physically and emotionally harmful punishments at the end of that journey.
Physically harmful? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you can't beat children. I'm pretty sure parents can't even, like, give a spanking nowadays without it being a highly controversial issue or something.
That's really fucked up if white kids and black kids are performing the same amount of rule violations, yet the black kids are getting punished more. And I'm sure you're going to explain to us how black children aren't breaking more rules on average.
This affects the fabric of our society. It affects the foundation. It affects education.
Whoa, wait. So you're saying that black kids...
I'm just gonna... In the hypothetical world of white supremacy that we exist in, where this is, happening in this leftist delusion land, how does this affect the foundation? I mean, that's because, that's... I understand that very early on black people, like the Moors and stuff, were involved in the founding of the country, and not all black people were slaves in America. It wasn't a very oversimplified, you're black, so you are a slave. It wasn't that simple. And there's paintings of George Washington sitting down, conducting business, planning things with elite blacks, the Moors, again. It's been kind of wiped from history and replaced with this. If you were black, you must have been, out there picking cotton. So it's funny that they make this claim and then try to make another claim. Oh, well, it affects the foundation. Not in the shit you're selling me. It doesn't.
They're getting punished more in preschool than white children. And your reasoning is because racism? Maybe the realistic reason is black kids are performing more rule violations in preschool on average than white kids. But of course...
They are. Where I live, you have the ghetto school. And then on the outskirts, there's all the other schools, and there's been waves of white flight. Like, you'll have, I guess, naive white families work their way up, from lower class to middle class in the area. And then at a point when they see their kids in the school, and you have tons of kids getting pregnant, you have kids assaulting the teachers. You've had teachers try to stab each other. I mean, it's a lunatics running the asylum thing because it's all just run by liberal Democrats, and with all this sort of leftist social justice mindset that everything can just be solved with caring and dumping more money into shit. And I mean, their ideas of how to fix the school system, it's like, oh, let's shuffle around the principals. Let's, that's all it is. Shuffling around administrators, dump more money into sports, give them an after-school program and everything like that. And the thing that's the glaring blows this whole issue up. This girl says it 8 minutes into the video. So I'm not going to get into it because she does. And it's crazy that she just kind of glosses over it like that ain't a thing. Because it's almost like what came first, chicken or the egg type thing, where they don't understand. I'll just have to elaborate when we get to that point.
Of course, this is current year and everything has to be jumped to the racism conclusion.
We don't have segregation anymore. But we do impose a sense of inferiority upon black children and children of other minorities by the time they're in preschool.
Well, how the fuck are we doing that? If we don't have segregation in our classrooms anymore, then how are we making black kids feel inferior when they get into preschool? Are we giving them the wrong type of finger paint?
This affects their motivation to learn, and it shakes the foundation of our education system.
Of course, any kid dealing with racism from their teacher is going to affect their ability to learn. But so far, you haven't shown how black kids in preschool are dealing with more racism than their white or other racial ethnicity counterparts.
To address it, we need to understand and acknowledge our own guilt.
What the fuck? Why do I always get blamed for something I'm not doing? I don't have to address this. I don't have to do jack shit. I didn't do anything. I'm not racist. I think I'm not racist. I'm not racist in preschool, or else I'm gonna be some weird fucking creepy guy like, hey, how's it going? Oh, you're painting a smiley face? That's cool. Whoa. What do you do when black kid? No. You put the finger paint down, you go in the corner. I don't do that, so why the fuck do I have to address it?
So the first step is recognizing and understanding where it comes from. It's not overt. It's implicit racial bias.
So now you're saying this racism is just implied, it's not even fully expressed? So all in all, these teachers really aren't racist, they just have racist thoughts in their minds and unconsciously punish the black kids for it? Yeah, I guess that makes more sense than on average black kids committing more rule violations in school. Sure, let's just go with that.
Studies at Duke University have found that racism affects the same part of the brain that fear does. The amygdala.
Yeah, we get it. People are fearful of the unknown. People are fearful of other people's cultures and their race. So many of us fully understand how fear can translate into racism. But now you're just skipping over the fact that we don't even know why black kids are being punished more in preschool. And by the way, why the fuck would a teacher be afraid of a bunch of black preschoolers?
Have you ever tried simply turning off the TV, sitting down with your children, and hitting them?
Study at Oxford University found that drugs that decrease the symptoms of PTSD also decrease implicit racial bias.
Isn't that crazy? I don't even know how implicit racial bias is measured, but could you imagine them getting to this point where it could get so dystopic that they are like, oh, well, in order to decrease implicit racial bias, we should start like drugging the tap water or something like that. Speaking of that, I had Suicide Squad on this morning, and you know, there's a part in that movie where the guy is like listing off things, one of the military guys, and he's like, we've got fluoride in the water, and you can't really tell whether they're saying it as a good thing or a bad thing in the dialogue. They're talking about like military problems and things like that, and World War III or whatever, and like, I don't know. I'll probably do a video on that, but just reminded me of it.
So, the teachers you think are racist, you want us to give them drugs?
We have predispositions, prejudgment, and biases that exist.
The thing that bothers me about all of this is it basically operates from the standpoint of where they want to get to, which is this crazy social engineered point where it's like they're going to go to you and they're going to say, your daughter can't have dolls, she has to play with trucks, because we have to make sure she isn't a woman. Basically, we need to make sure that she can, you know, do everything the men can do, and the men, we have to make sure they play with dolls and put on makeup and do all of this stuff, because that's the only way. They're not going to have some sort of implicit gender bias about stereotypes and, you know, everything like that. We have to segregate the white children so that they can understand the experience of the history of black folk and all of this weird, you know, you're a science project to these elites where they think they should be the ones setting up the environmental stimulus, and that's why we only got 4 more minutes to it, and it's why the point just gets glossed over, because it's a boundary that they realize they can't really step into, but they try.
Our core.
Oh, so we're born with these racist biases. The teachers in these preschools can't control that they're racist towards black students. It's just deep in their white evil core. Oh wait, that's right. Are these teachers in preschools only white? There's no such thing as a black preschool teacher? That's so weird. I have to tell everyone that every single preschool teacher in America today is white. Not black, just white.
You know, I had a black teacher that in high school, when I was in 8th grade about to go into high school, I was hearing, because I knew I had her as a teacher, so there's of course all the whispering, and the big thing going around was, you know, did you hear that she told this one kid's parents at a parent-teacher conference that their kid was too white? And that, you know, really rubbed everyone the wrong way. And in all honesty, I don't get along with that kid that she was talking about. He was a friend of one of a girl I dated's older brother, one of his friends. So I was constantly around this kid. He was always kind of a prick. Acted like he had a stick up his ass. Like he was like kind of snobby. For no real general reason. So, you know, they might not have liked the way she verbalized that as a sort of racial stereotype, but there was validity to what she had to say.
And only white and...
Oh, and she really liked me, so... But I got personality. That's all it really boils down to. And there's, within the stereotypes, you know, white is looked at as kind of bland, where the browner you are, or more minority, it's sort of exotic and, you know, fetishized is what they call it.
Forever will be white.
It's not our fault. It's human. It's not racist. But it is our fault if we don't address it. We're not responsible for our first thought, but we are responsible for our second thought. Our second thought needs to be one of rejection, of movement towards a more equal society.
So basically our first thought is our racist thought, that we are so racist in our core, we're born with it, that's our first thought, and our second thought should be rejecting the racism that is trapped inside of us.
And this is how you basically end up at the soft bigotry of low expectations, where, you know, because, all right, let's just say for whatever, that everyone isn't racist. Or most people, you know, like 99% of the world. Let's say most people aren't. Well, if then you're then drilling into their heads that their baseline of not being is actually that they are, and that they constantly have to take it a step further, well, then you're going to start dealing with brown people like they're idiots. And you know, children, basically. The kid glove treatment. And, this is where we're at. And it's why you have Indians faking to be black to get into colleges and stuff. And it's really set black people up to be in a real bad position, where a lot of the other minorities that don't understand this guilt victim complex shit are starting to resent you. And it's minority groups that outperform whites in most cases as well.
Lady, what the fuck are you saying?
Studies have shown that throughout the system, throughout the journey of discipline, black students in particular are affected disproportionately to their white and other peers.
And when we refer back to the beginning of the video, I ask you, why is this happening? Is it because there are actually racist teachers starting in preschool? Or is it the common sense thing where on average black kids are committing more school violations than their white counterparts and other peers?
A study done by the Yale University Child Center found that black children are 42% more likely, black boys, to be noticed by their teachers and watched by their teachers.
And in your mind, that means that those teachers are racist. However, when you on average have a group of people who are committing more violence...
Hold on, I just want to... Let's take another look at those percents. That's... I mean, it's...
Black boys. To be noticed by their teachers and watched by their teachers.
And in your mind, that means that those teachers are racist. However...
You know what else that chart probably follows a similar trend to? Testosterone levels. And just overall, like, rowdiness and rambunctiousness and wanting to move and everything like that. Think about it. I mean, people, they excel at athletics because of it, and the NFL and everything like that. And we see that there's a anti-boy, anti-male bias permeating the education system, you know, where they have kids on medications and everything like that, because otherwise, how else are you going to get them to sit still for hours and hours and want to concentrate on something when they're children? So I think that's probably more reasonable explanation as to why this is happening, then it's the, teacher's fault.
When you on average have a group of people who are committing more violations than other groups of people, then that group's going to be watched over upon more often than the other groups. So the little clip art presentation that you just showed us led me to believe that yes, black kids on average are committing more school violations than their other counterparts.
This means that they are more likely to be noticed for misbehavior because teachers, like all of us, have implicit racial bias and expect them to misbehave more often.
Wow, what a surprise. See, preschool teachers, you are just racist deep to your core and there's nothing you can do about it.
Once they are noticed for this misbehavior in preschool, and noticed for it in middle school, for infractions such as kissing in the hallways, or chewing gum in class, they are more likely to be referred into the disciplinary system. In high school, they are more likely to be black boys.
Let me tell you what, in the schools I went to, kissing and gum chewing were the least of the concerns. You don't put metal detectors up at the door for kissing. You don't put cameras in your hallways for kids chewing gum. We're talking about like fights and guns and drugs and like crimes. We're not talking about this little schoolyard stuff. I don't know what reality this girl is living in. She must be somewhere in the middle of nowhere and just drinking this social justice Kool-Aid, because I can tell you she's never went to an inner city school.
Black boys
have found in the Seattle Public School District to be found to be 3 times more likely to be punished for the infraction of intimidation of school authority.
Yet again, are
notice how that, so yeah, she jumps from noticed for things like kissing and chewing gum to intimidating an authority. That means talking back and bullying the teacher, basically. I mean, I'll tell you what, they have it set up where teachers get their college debt forgived if they teach in an inner city school district. And I mean, I can tell you, first off, that's why if this girl is going into elementary ed, she's going into elementary ed because she knows she can't handle grown-ass kids because they would intimidate the shit out of her. And that's what's going on. So, and now let's continue.
They also 3 times more than likely to actually be performing these violations. See, this is one of the reasons I hate sociology and the study of society. I just can't work on this. I need actual individual examples to go off on. And so far, you have provided none of those.
This is a subjective term that we expect teachers and administrators to be objective about, when we know that racial bias lies deep within their brains, just as it does with the rest of us.
How do you know that? You are saying that all people in this world have racist biases in their brains due to a biological factor that they were born with because it's deep in their core? I've heard.
No, and see, that's the thing. It's not a claim that it's born into them. It's basically this idea that it's a conspiracy theory is what it is, and then it unfolds into it's a conspiracy theory that exposes a conspiracy theory, because it's this idea that, well, society has been engineered by the patriarchy and, white supremacy and all of this other paranoid delusional nonsense, that it's been engineered by this in this way that disadvantages everyone. So now we need to engineer society. We need to tinker with your subconscious and all of this other stuff in order to fix the engineering you've already had. Everyone's just a little puppet. And you really start to wonder if it's projection. Like, if all of these people just know they are being grinded through this machine to do things that are unnatural and everything like that. It could be why we have all this problems with depression and everything else, because we don't have a society or a structure that's conducive to human nature. You know, there's like this educational industrial complex, the medical industrial complex. I mean, government kind of has, since the 50s at least, been regulating this, and you have been a science project. But it's now them not even exposing the programming you've already had, because they want to keep that in place. They just want to expand upon it. So they instead have to come up with an imaginary version of it where it's like, oh, well, I do feel like this is happening. So, you know, it's a misdirection tactic. So now we're almost at the good part.
Heard some silly stuff on the internet before, but come on, this is just foolish.
Children who are suspended or expelled are taught that the schools aren't capable of handling them, that they would rather not see them at school. This leads them, especially black children, into homes that are more prone to gang exposure, to violence, to drugs, alcohol, and sex.
Now, everyone caught that, right? She talks for 8 minutes about kids acting out in school, and tries to say that basically that they're acting out the same level as everyone else, and they're just being picked on because of their skin color, that they're being watched in an amount that's unreasonable and everything, and then goes and says that after all this stuff happens, we suspend them. And that sends them into these homes where they're exposed to gang violence, drugs, sex, all sorts of degeneracy, basically. And at no point does it click, and does she say, wait, if they're coming from homes with all sorts of degeneracy and all this stuff, well, maybe that's why they're acting out. And maybe that's why they're being punished more often. And maybe that's... I mean, how does that not click? Where it's like, oh, well, if their home life is like this, that's what's influencing them. Then we take them, and now we have them in this shitty situation. Just sit, read this, do this, learn this, recite this, repeat this, let you go run around for an hour. Now sit back down, recite this, learn this, memorize this, and then they start fighting each other and everything else. How does that not click? That's the answer right there. You have the answer. You just have everything out of order. And this creepy ass idea that we should be medicating people for what's going on in their subconscious. I mean, and the crazy thing is, if you went to this chick and handed her a pill that would eat away at her brain and said, this will reduce your implicit bias, she'd probably just take it. I mean, it's so nuts. So, anyway, that's this video. And I want to just point that out because it's right there in it. I don't even think he mentions it. If you don't want to
get expelled, don't commit an infraction. It's that fucking simple. If you follow the rules, you won't be expelled.
That too. But yeah, that's so crazy. That point just... sit right there. There's the answer. So have a good one, everyone. Subscribe to the channel. Check out my website, JamieStarr.org, I think. It's in the links below. If I got the .net for the Gamescape. That's my blogging video game channel. And NewWorldNewsNetwork.com. So check out the links. Follow, leave a comment. Take care, everyone.